You press your hand against the hot iron pot and you smell it before you see it. That sweet, nauseating stench of burning flesh, your own flesh curling and blackening against the metal. But here's the thing that breaks your mind. You don't feel it. No pain, no heat, no warnings scream from your nervous system. Just the smoke rising from your palm like incense, and the horrifying realization that your body has stopped talking to you. This is how it begins. Not with rotting limbs falling off like in the movies, but with silence. The silence of dead nerves. The silence that comes before everything else falls apart. Welcome to leprosy. The disease that doesn't kill you quickly. It kills you slowly, piece by piece, sense by sense, while the world buries you alive. They called it the finger of God, a divine punishment so severe that the church invented a special ceremony just for you. Not a funeral for when you die. A funeral for while you're still breathing. Imagine this, it's somewhere between the 12th and 16th century, and you've just been diagnosed. The priest leads you to the churchyard. There's a wooden coffin waiting. You stand beside it live, terrified, perfectly conscious, while the priest reads your last rites. Then he takes a shovel, scoops dirt from a fresh grave, and pours it over your head 3 times. You are dead to the world, he says, but alive to God. Congratulations. You've just attended your own funeral. This was called the separatio leprosorum, the separation of lepers. And it wasn't symbolic, it was legal death. You couldn't own property anymore. You couldn't inherit anything. Your marriage was dissolved. Your children were taken away. If you tried to touch anyone, you could be executed. You were a ghost in a living body, wandering the edges of civilization, with a bell around your neck so people could hear you coming and run. But let's go back to the body, because that's where the real horror lives. Leprosy caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium lepra is one of the slowest infections known to humanity. It incubates for 5 to 20 years. You could be infected as a child and not know it until you're a grown adult with a family, a job, a life. And then one day you notice a patch of skin that looks lighter than the rest. You touch it. Nothing. No sensation. That patch is dead. The bacteria have invaded your peripheral nerves, the tiny cables that run from your spinal cord to your skin, and they've started eating them from the inside out. Here's what they didn't tell you in history class. Leprosy doesn't make your fingers and toes fall off by itself. The disease kills your nerves, which kills your ability to feel pain. And pain is your body's alarm system. Pain is what makes you pull your hand away from fire. Pain is what makes you stop walking when there's a nail in your shoe. Without pain, you become your own worst enemy. You stub your toe, and you don't notice. You keep walking. The bone fractures. You keep walking. Infection sets in. You still don't notice because there's no pain. Weeks later, the toe turns black. It dies. It falls off. Not because the leprosy ate it, but because you couldn't feel it dying. At night, rats would come. In the leper colonies, in the huts outside the city walls, people would wake up to find their fingers gnawed down to the bone. Not because the rats were unusually vicious, but because the lepers couldn't feel the biting. They'd sleep through their own mutilation. And the face. God, the face. The bacteria loved the cooler parts of the body, the nose, the ears, the fingertips. The cartilage would collapse. The nose would cave inward, leaving a gaping hole where there used to be a bridge. The eyebrows would fall out. The skin would thicken and fold into deep ridges, a condition called leonine facies, lion face, because you started to look like something inhuman, something monstrous, but you were still you. Inside that crumbling shell, your mind was intact. You could think. You could remember what it felt like to hold your child's hand. You could hear your own voice, muffled now behind the cloth they made you wear over your face. You were fully aware of everything you'd lost, and so they made you announce yourself. In medieval Europe, lepers were required by law to carry a clapper, a wooden rat lore, wear a bell. The Lazarus bell, they called it, after the biblical Lazarus, the beggar covered in sores. You'd walk down the road, and the sound would precede you, clack, 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 a walking warning. A human plague alarm. Children would scatter. Mothers would cover their babies' faces. Men would spit in your direction and make the sign of the cross. You weren't allowed to touch water from public wells. You couldn't enter taverns, markets, or churches. If you wanted bread, you had to point at it with a long stick so the baker could toss it to you from a distance. You lived in colonies Lazarettos built far outside city walls, often near cemeteries, as if to remind you that you were already dead. But here's the cruelest joke of all. Leprosy is one of the least contagious diseases in human history. About 95% of people are naturally immune to it. It requires prolonged, close contact to spread usually years of living in the same household. It's less contagious than the common cold, less contagious than tuberculosis, less contagious than most things medieval Europe actually should have been terrified of, but fear doesn't need facts. Fear needs a face. And leprosy gave people the perfect monster, the walking corpse, the rotting sinner, the living proof that God could punish you in this life, not just the next. So they isolated you. They exiled you. They buried you while you could still beg them not to. In 1179, the Third Lateran Council made it official church law. Lepers must be separated from the healthy. They must live apart, worship apart, die apart. Some colonies were merciful, run by monks who genuinely tried to care for the sick. Others were pits of despair, overcrowded hovels where people starved and festered in their own waste, too weak to even ring their bells anymore. And yet some lepers found strange freedom in their exile. In the colonies, there was no more pretending, no more hiding the patches of dead skin, no more shame. They married each other. They had children. They formed communities. They even had their own kings and queens, elected leaders within the colony walls. It was a kingdom of the damned, but it was a kingdom nonetheless. By the 16th century, leprosy began to fade from Europe. No one knows exactly why. Better nutrition, maybe. Climate change, genetic resistance. Or perhaps tuberculosis, which shares similar bacterial DNA, outcompeted it. But in other parts of the world, India, Brazil, parts of Africa, leprosy never left. Even today, hundreds of thousands of new cases are diagnosed every year. The disease is curable now. A cocktail of antibiotics taken for 6 months to a year can stop it in its tracks. But the stigma, the fear, that lingers like a ghost. There are still colonies, still people hidden away even though they're no longer contagious. Still children who grow up believing their parents are cursed. The bacteria may die, but the shame is immortal. So here's what leprosy really taught us, that the worst part of disease isn't always the disease itself. It's what people do to you because of it. It's the loneliness, the exile, the funeral they give you while you're still breathing. It's the sound of your own bell ringing in the wind, warning the world to stay away. And maybe that's the real plague. Not the bacteria in your blood, but the fear in theirs. Because in the end, you didn't rot from leprosy. You rotted from isolation.